Alright guys, quick little video on how to carb cycle for both muscle growth and fat loss, or just maintaining your body weight, which I guess you can grow muscle and maintain your body weight. I'll mention that in this video as well, just if you're recomping. Yeah, carb cycling is basically applicable to like any situation. So what exactly is carb cycling? It's just adjusting your carbohydrate intake depending on the day. Now, if you didn't know, if you're lifting weights, your muscle use glycogen. Glycogen is literally just the stored energy from carbohydrates in your muscle. And this is what your muscles use to produce force when weightlifting. Carbohydrate intake, you want a high carbohydrate intake on days where you are using muscle glycogen. So days where you are weightlifting or doing cardio. If you do like hard sprints or biking, you're burning muscle glycogen in your quads, for example. You can kind of schedule this like low days, so low carb days, or basically no carbs you can also do on a rest day. If you're really not moving, or if you're just getting only steps in, for example, that's not really going to use up any glycogen, not going to use up any carbs. So what you can then do is, for example, you eat 250 grams of carbs in a day. On your low day, just eat only 50 grams of carbs. That might also put you into a calorie deficit for that day. But then let's say next day is a hard leg day. You can then schedule in a high carb day where you can add those extra 200 grams of carbs that you didn't eat on your rest day, because let's be real, you're resting, you're not really using up any carbs, you don't really need them. Your body isn't going to be utilizing them for any sort of activity. So why not just put them on your high day where you are doing weightlifting, hard weightlifting. For example, as I said, a leg day, that tends to burn through the most muscle glycogen. Now, instead of 250 grams of carbs, you have 450 grams of carbs because you subtracted those 200 grams of carbs from your rest day. And you can also plan in like medium days. If, for example, you have days where you only schedule to train arms, you don't need as many carbs as a full leg day for an arm day, but you can kind of just play around with that. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is what carb cycling is, but also it isn't much deeper than that. I think some people overcomplicate this. It's literally just putting carbohydrates where you can use them best, where your body can get the most out of them. And also, for example, on a high day, this doesn't mean cram those 200 grams of carbs in your pre-workout meal. This means just spread those 200 grams of carbs out over the entire high day. And as I also said at the beginning, for who is carb cycling, it's literally for anyone. It's just different programming based on if you're bulking, maintaining, cutting. For example, if you're cutting, you probably won't really have any truly high carb days, but you could just have like basically next to no carbs on your rest days, and then just medium carbs on your training days. So for example, you're eating 1500 calories or something if you're deep into the cut on your rest day, basically no carbs. And let's say your maintenance is around 2500, so that's 1000 calorie deficit on your rest day. Then on your training days, add in 200 grams of carbs, that's 800 calories. You'll be eating 2300, so you're still in a 200 deficit, but you still get the most amount of carbs that you can fit into your calorie budget right around your training. And I would say this is especially good if you're cutting, because otherwise, I'm not too good at this math, it would even out to like 1900 calories per day or something if you just ate the same amount of carbs every single day. And that's unnecessary carbs programmed in your rest day that you won't be using, and less carbs on your training day. Which, let's be real, it doesn't really make that much sense. So if you're cutting, you might as well just get into a deep deficit on your rest days and sit closer to maintenance just purely from those extra carbs on your training days. And I mean, you can basically do the same if you're maintaining, but just not at absolutely zero carbs on your rest days. But like how you could schedule this is take away like 50 grams of carbs on your rest days, or even 100 grams of carbs, and just put yourself into like a 400 calorie or a 200 calorie deficit. And then on your training days, just put yourself back into a surplus. Just eat a 50 to 100 grams of carbs surplus. So in total, after a week, month, year, decade, whatever, it evens out. You literally ate maintenance, but you just programmed more carbs around your workouts. And you can take this kind of to an extreme on a bulk. On a bulk, you can put yourself into a deficit on a rest day just to get a crazy amount of carbs in on your training days. Although on a bulk, this probably won't be as necessary. What I would mainly recommend on a bulk is just put yourself at maintenance on rest days, and then just add an extra 50 grams of carbs on training days, so that you'll be put into around a 200 calorie surplus on your training days. And yeah, on days that you're not training, just subtract those 50 grams of carbs, keep yourself at maintenance. And this way you can program basically any body composition journey the way you want, but maximize your gains, because you're putting the most amount of preferred energy for your muscles on your training days. And yeah, this image basically represents what I was just saying. If you're trying to maintain your weight right here on low carb days or rest days, keep your calories just a little under maintenance. And then on your training day, you can eat a little bit higher carbs, still around maintenance, but eat a little bit higher carbs to fuel performance. And yeah, maybe a slight deficit on your low carb day and a slight surplus on your training day, your high carb day. But in the end, that doesn't matter because it evens out to maintenance, but you put more energy around your training. And yeah, for fat loss on your low carbs day, just create a big deficit. And then on your training days, you can either just eat carbs at maintenance or just a smaller deficit than on your low carb day. And for bulking, low carb day, maintenance or slight deficit. And then, as I was just saying, around the 200 calorie surplus on your training days. But besides just high fuel for training and low fuel for rest so you can maintain your body weight or lose fat, it also gives you this option of more flexible eating, even outside of a dieting phase or whatever. If you're just going on a holiday or go out to eat, if you're going out to a restaurant tomorrow, today just save your carbs a little bit. Put yourself into a little deficit so you can allocate those carbs to eating out tomorrow and eat more calories, not have to be as restricted. So it also just gives yourself a little more peace of mind if you can save up some carbs throughout the day and allocate them to an event that might be happening the next day or in a few days. Or as I just said, if you're going away for like a week, you can eat lower carbs basically throughout the whole week. Save up a few hundred or even a few thousand calories worth of carbs. And then you can eat those extra on your week away, on your holiday, whatever. And in the end, you'll have maintained your body weight. Now, something that you do have to watch out for with this approach, increase only carbs and also decrease only carbs. If you're on a rest day eating like low carbs, make sure your fats and proteins are still up. And if you're eating high carb, make sure that fats don't creep up. Make sure that if you're, for example, eating donuts, yes, there's a ton of carbs in those, but there's also a ton of fats in those. But your fats, they won't help with your workout. Your muscles won't use those for energy. And fats are very calorie dense. You can easily put yourself into a surplus or a bigger surplus than you intended. So if you're thinking, oh, it's a high day, I can eat a bunch of carbs, I can eat all the donuts, all the chocolate, all the whatever I want, be sure to watch out because there's also a lot of fat in these foods. There's more calories from fats than from carbs. So make sure that you're not making this day a high fat junk food day, but actually get like pure carbs, rice, potatoes, whatever, and try to minimize donuts and other junk food that's high in fat, because then instead of a high carb day, you're just turning it into a junk food dirty bulk day. So yeah, be sure to watch out for that. And well, this was very simple, but it's basically what I wanted to talk about. Just a quick short video explaining carb cycling, explaining the things that you should do and you shouldn't do. I'm currently carb cycling a little bit as well. I'm on a rest day right now, eating around 2,000 calories, and then on my training days, I up my carbs with like 100 to 150 grams, so that's an extra 400 to 600 calories worth of carbs, just to fuel my training performance, and that puts me at around maintenance on my training days, and then a moderate deficit on my rest days. So yeah, I hope this was useful to somebody. If it was, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, leave a comment, whatever, and thank you guys for watching.